Hi everyone, welcome to this week's short attention span webinar, and I'll let you in on a little hint. We've already done this once, but we forgot one of us, and I'm not going to point any fingers. One of us forgot to hit the record button. So
you can do it the Blake Shelton way. This is the way Blake Shelton does it.
So that was a dress rehearsal. This is the real thing, so it's going to be even better. So let's
much
talk
better.
about first of all, hi Kelly.
Hi.
All right, I already said hi before, but nobody knew that. So we're going to talk about the don'ts of sales, not just the do's and don'ts, but the don'ts. Okay, and here's what we're talking about. Number one, don't put samples in the mail. Why not? Kelly, why would we put samples in the mail? What's the harm?
Well, the short answer is that everybody does it, and you don't have any context around the sample. So you might think you're grabbing some really beautiful pieces and you throw them in the mail, and the person opens it up and goes, "Oh, wow, they must be a really high-end printer. I must not be able to afford this work." Or if if unfortunately you put something in there that maybe isn't quite as awesome, and you've got a really experienced print buyer who goes, "Ooh, I don't like these crossovers," or "Ooh, this paper's crappy," or something like that. I mean, there's no ability for you to put a story and a context around the samples when you just send them in the mail. So a better response would be to say, I'm happy to come in and explain this to you, but in my experience, nobody you won't understand what it's like to do business with me and how I can be a resource to you by just looking at some samples. So it'd be much better for us to sit down and talk for a few moments. So that's kind of my answer about samples. Now, the other side of that is that you could be seen, because a lot of my clients have said, well, but you're being argumentative, or you're being non-compliant by not doing what they want.
Sure.
But in fact, you're just creating a conversation, and in fact, that may just be a knee-jerk reaction that buyers have, is, oh, just send that. It's kind of a dismissal. It's a put-off, really.
Right.
And so if you try to treat it like an objection and overcome it, it may show that buyer that you've got some substance to you, and that you're somebody worth talking to.
All right, good. So don't send samples, because you'll be judged on the basis of what you sent, and that's not always a good thing. The second one is don't do what everybody else is doing. So when we ask people, what's the worst selling day of the week, they say Fridays. Nobody wants to hear from you on a Friday. If that's everyone's attitude, think about that. No one's calling on Fridays, Friday afternoon in particular. What a great time for me to call, because there's less traffic coming in. So don't buy into that assumption. And Kelly, you had another one during dress rehearsal, which I thought was brilliant. So what's the other thing that people are doing that you think we shouldn't do?
Well, a lot of people are saying they don't leave voicemail messages because they never get returned and they're just meaningless. So my response to that is, you don't leave a voicemail because you expect that person to call you back. You leave a voicemail because it's a free advertisement for you. It displays your persistence and your professionalism. So it's just another way for you to announce your presence and tell somebody who you are and why you're calling. I just wanted to tag on to what you'd said earlier about Fridays. A lot of people say the same thing about Monday mornings.
Sure.
I say that's a bunch of hooey. So make the calls whenever you feel like it, and leave the voicemails, because it's free, quick advertising for you.
Cool. All right. The third one is don't sell print. Now, I did a whole webinar on this back in January with the NAPL. For those members who caught that, you can get the free replay up on the website on napl.org. But the commentary here is, look, it's not about print. It's about the client. Dale Carnegie said, you can get what you want when you figure out what the other guy wants and help him to get it. Okay? Well, if I want to sell print, I have to figure out what the other guy wants, what the client wants. They want to launch a product. They want to make a trade show successful. They want to get more out of existing customers. I can get what I want, not by talking about print, but discovering what the client is all about, what their business needs are, not what their print needs are, or packaging or signage or whatever you're selling, labels, anything like that. Keep the focus on the customer and what their needs are and where they're going as well. The last part of this, Kelly, has to do with attitude. I don't know if I'm sure you've been through this before. I don't know how recently you've been through it, but boy, it gets down when the phone stops ringing and you're thinking, oh, this is awful. I'm really going under. This is my second month. I'm having a terrible month again. But we're out here saying, don't worry, it's going to work out. How can we say that and why?
Well, the kind of recipe is that if you are calling on the right people and you have a message of value and you inspire trust and confidence in people, you will not fail. You given enough time and enough consistency and enough of being really good at what you're doing, you will become successful. So it's almost as if you have to visualize it and say, I know, I have faith, I believe that all the hard work I'm doing will pay off. I'll just give you a really quick example. I have a young woman that I'm coaching in Pittsburgh. She got started Labor Day, so it's now March. So she's been doing it about 6 months. And I keep telling her every week, this is the hardest thing you're ever going to do.
Right.
And her boss just sent me an email yesterday saying she's just opened 2 brand new accounts. We're thrilled. We think this is going really well. And, again, I keep telling her, you're about halfway there. It's the hardest thing you're ever going to do, but you have to believe that what you're doing is worth it and it's working.
Yeah.
It's really hard to believe that and feel it when you're in it, but believe me and believe Bill and believe us both when we tell you it will happen. If all of those other things are in place, you're calling on the right people, you have a good message, you inspire trust and confidence, it will happen.
So those are our 4 don'ts. And it's funny, I had to kind of fight through a whole bunch of them just to whittle it down to 4. But there's some, this is after all the short attention span webinar, and I'm sure there's some wrist rolling going on out there. So maybe we'll revisit this subject a little later on. But that's it for now. Thank you very much, Miss Malazzi.
Thanks, Bill.
And we'll talk to you all in another short attention span webinar. Especially now that I've hit the right recording button.